Good afternoon, guys. I'm glad that you guys are here. This is your weekly Shepherds broadcast where we connect UBC flock with those who shepherd them. So today we have the wonderful privilege of having our returning guest, Julie Langat, and we're going to continue with the wonderful topic of, I don't know if I can call it wonderful, but the topic of verbal abuse or emotional abuse, or just abuse in general. We had some really interesting discussions last week, and we are here to continue. But before we continue, I'd like to ask Judy to kind of recap for us what we learned last week.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you're watching from. Welcome back. Last week, we started the conversation talking about emotional abuse and verbal abuse. So let's recap. Verbal abuse, what is it? The ones that we recognize would be threats, judging, criticizing, lying, blaming, ordering someone around, yelling at people. So that would be the obvious verbal abuse that we recognize. But then there are also the subtle abuse. It's nonverbal but verbal in a way, where you oppose somebody, you're blocking what they're saying, you are undermining what they're saying when they're speaking, you're interrupting them. If there's something that is constantly happening, that is abuse. Also, we do have, because of the verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse, and that is any kind of speech or behavior that's controlling, punishing, or manipulative. So that's a recap of what we talked about. We talked about the different ones that we recognize, and one of the main ones that we spoke about was, an example was what we call mchongoano. So that's what we talked about last week.
Yeah, and I think at the end we kind of ended it with really paying attention, if you're a Sunday school teacher, to what the kids are going through. Yeah, and you want to say something about that just in summary before we get into today's topic?
Sure. So towards the end of last week, one of the things that I was pleading, and I'm going to plead with adults, with grown-ups, is let's pay attention to the children. Let us pay attention to the behaviors the children are exhibiting, because these behaviors are coming from somewhere. And if you feel that you need to let somebody know, like Pastor or Pastor Naziri for the children's ministry, or whoever you're comfortable with, please speak up, and we can look into these things.
All right. So So today we want to talk about how to get out of an abusive relationship. Sure. Number one,
yes.
Is it possible to get out of an abusive relationship? Because I've heard many people saying that it is so difficult, almost impossible, to get out of an abusive relationship. Can you say something about that?
All right, I'm going to break it into two. So I'm going to break it from the abuser standpoint. It may be hard for a victim to get out because of the threats or whatever the abuser is doing to the victim. And then when you come to the victim's side, the fear that has been imposed on this person will keep them in the relationship. They may be fearful that if they leave, their abuse is going to get worse, or they don't know where to go, or they're shamed. There are a lot of reasons why people will not get out of their relationship. But it's possible to get out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think it is not impossible, but it is really hard.
Yes.
And it is not a quick exit.
No, it's not a quick exit. With the help of experts, they will always give you a way out. They will always give you, first of all, a way to cope if you're in the abusive relationship. And then, if you have to come up with an exit plan, they will help you come up with an exit plan. That's why I always say, if you're going through something, speak up. Even if it's not to an expert, tell somebody who will seek the help that is needed to help you if you need to come out of the abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is there places where the abuser actually manipulates you and makes you feel like if you leave, you're the one giving up? And saying things like, I really want to change, but I cannot change without you.
You know, many times when we look at the abuser, when we look at abuse mostly is, it happens, how am I going to put this one? It happens when someone is not accepting to take responsibility of what's going on with them, okay? So when the abuser has that fear that you may leave, you know, you are that kind of person who is staying, as a victim, you're staying in that relationship and they are gaining whatever they are gaining from it, whatever satisfaction they're getting from it. So the more you stay, the more, I will use the word, you're enabling the bad behavior. But when there's that threat that you're going to leave the relationship, they will always find a way to plead or to get you to stay in that relationship so that they can continue getting the satisfaction. Yeah.
So there is someone that is watching us right now, and they're saying, you know what, I believe in God. God can change people, and they are hoping that the abusive partner is going to change. What is your message for those people?
Here is what I'm going to say. Do not use the word of God to justify the abuse. God is a loving God. God is love. Okay? So there are people, yes, who will try to justify and say, I'm God-fearing and God is a God of second chances. Of course, there's always, oh, you're a Christian doesn't divorce, or a Christian doesn't give up on a relationship, you know? But that is not true, that is not correct. Abuse is abuse in any context, whether in the church, in the office, in the home, any kind of behavior that is hurting somebody is abuse, period. Yes.
So what is your advice to this person? I am trusting the Lord that this person is going to change. And and to put it another way, you know, I don't only believe that they are going to change, I believe that God is going to use me to change them.
Is
so
that
if
God's
I
will?
leave, who is going to change them? I am God's agent of change in the life of this person.
Only God can change. You can plant the seed, but you can't change the person. So the way, if somebody's really, I'm not sure if it's in the book of James or it's in Timothy where it says, you know, if for example, and I'm just gonna use my words, if I have something going on or I have an issue with you, you know, to come to you first, okay? If you don't reform or we are not able to come to an understanding, we go to the elders of the church. And if we get to that point and it's not, you know, we are not resolving.
Matthew 18.
Okay, Matthew 18. So sorry, it's not in James or Timothy. That's why you're a pastor. Anyway.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, there's also outside help, because we have exhausted what we can do here in the church. We have professionals, we have psychotherapists, we have life coaches, we have all those avenues where we can seek help.
I think one of the things that we as a church need to also be honest with is to know, understand, and realize our limitations in helping people. And that just because I have the title pastor doesn't mean that I can do everything. And I like what you said, that at some point we need to figure out this is beyond what we can do, and we need to bring in professional help.
And for me, I'm grateful and I'm thankful because I've had situations here where I've called a pastor and they've told me I am beyond that, but I know someone else who can help you. So that's why I appreciate Upendo. When you reach out somebody is always willing to say, I can't help you, but I can seek the help that we need. So I'm not saying it just matters or any other matter, that comes up as a church member.
Yeah, so because there is instances where people say when you begin to see change in the person, then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. How do you recognize or how do you discern that this person doesn't want to let go of me, but they're going to do everything I say, they're going to jump the hoops, they're going to go for counseling? At what point do you say, okay, he is doing everything, he's checking all the boxes, so everybody out there is rooting for him or her, but you are living with them, you're not seeing any change? At what point do you say, because all of us, we don't want people to think, man, I'm the one that gave up. And when these guys are doing this, they're actually wanting to say, I tried everything. I went for counseling. I did this. I read the Bible. I went for prayer. Like, how do you communicate that to people to understand that what you're seeing out here is not the reality of what is going on in there?
And I like what you said. There's something that caught my attention. You said what other people see. It's not about what other people see. It's about what the victim is going through and what the abuser is doing to the victim.
Because
yes,
as a victim, you can find yourself not only a victim to the person who's abusing you,
yes,
but to the community at large,
yes,
rooting for the person abusing you.
Yes.
And especially if they have status
yes.
in the community.
Yes. Last week when we spoke, I said we are very good pretenders when we are out there. So the picture that I paint when I'm out there is not the picture that is painted when I'm behind closed doors. And that is a lot of people. So many people are suffering in silence because they don't want to out, and I'm going to use that word, out their abuser, or they don't want to be the one exposing this person who is a very well-known, very high-profile person in the community. Yes, and there's that fear. So that's the reason why some people continue staying in the relationship saying, I have to maintain. You remember back home we had the thing of maintaining a family name or maintaining the status. Yes. So it's not about maintaining the status. It's about fighting for yourself, fighting for your children and the next generation, because if I am raising a child in a relationship that is abusive, my child can grow up being an abuser or continuing to be a victim in another relationship. So if we don't teach them to speak up, it's going, the circle is going just to continue, and there's not going to be any help.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very, like I said last week, we can sit here and give the people the impression that we are solving the problem.
We're not.
But really what we're doing is just opening the door that these conversations can be had. That if somebody is going through this, we may not be able to help them, but we may know someone who may, or just to open that door.
Yes.
Is it possible for somebody to be in an abusive relationship and that they don't know that they're in one?
Yes, and that's why I said some of the time, some of these things start quietly or in a subtle way.
Yeah.
And I gave an example of me telling you something that's a little hurtful, but you don't say something back to me.
Yeah.
And the next time, when we're just joking, going at it, I say something that's more hurtful than I did. And it goes, by the time you realize what's going on, you're saying, hey, why does Judy talk to me like this? And at that time, I've done it over, and I'm getting more confident because I'm doing it over and over and over. By the time you realize, okay, this is something that I'm not comfortable with, it's already at that point where it's abuse. You don't want to hang out with me. When you see me, you try to avoid me. Yeah, that's emotional abuse.
Yeah. So let's turn gears here.
Yeah.
So there is this person that wants to leave.
Okay.
And we are saying, figure out a way to get out, whether temporarily as you find help, or permanently if this is becoming dangerous. Is that an accurate statement to say?
Yes. Usually for somebody to get out, they will need a lot of support.
Yeah.
And when I say support, they will need a lot of support from family, from friends, from wherever they can get support. Sometimes that support is really hard to come by, because I will come to you and say, hey, Pastor Dennis, this is what's going on. And like we said, if we are dealing with a high-profile person, you may say, hey, I can't help you there. I'm sorry. I don't want to get, you know. Some people, you will approach them and they will be like, that's not what we see.
Yeah.
So you see, the way you're saying the community will abuse the victim. Those are the things. So as a victim, just know that not everybody is going to believe you. Yeah. But don't give up. Just keep seeking help. And if it means seeking help outside of what you know. Right now, there are so many online tools that you can use to seek help anonymously. I remember one time I used to volunteer, and one of the things that I learned here in the United States, where I don't know about any other country, but here in the United States, for example, some of the gas stations, if you see them, they have that triangle that says safe place. You can actually drive there and say, I need help, and they will call the police.
Really?
Yes, they do.
Didn't know that.
So when you're walking around, look at, for example, and I'm not marketing any gas station, or look at any gas station or somewhere that has a yellow triangle and says safe place, and one of them is Quick Trip. Yeah, so I found out when I was volunteering at a domestic violence shelter. Yes.
So you have actually volunteered there?
I have volunteered, yes.
You are not just talking about this. This is something that you have come face to face with.
I have come face to face, domestic violence shelter and domestic abuse for children shelters as well. Yes, I have volunteered there, yes.
So let's talk about the people that are not ready to leave yet.
Okay.
So you have this guy, they don't want to leave, or they're not ready to leave yet. How do they make the places that they are living in safe places for themselves?
It will be hard to make it a safe place for you. However, one of the things you have to do is disconnect mentally, because you cannot disconnect physically. Start disconnecting mentally. When I say disconnect mentally, an example would be if someone is telling you something that's hurtful that you want to cry, just show a blank face. Like, it's not, you know, don't show your expression. And when they don't see an expression, they don't know what to do. And when they don't know what to do, they will either back off or increase. So it can go either way. And then if you really, really have to, you know, vent the bottled emotions, go cry somewhere where the abuser is not seeing. Go vent somewhere that the abuser is not seeing the effects of what they're doing to you. Yeah, so when you start detaching yourself emotionally before you even start touching yourself physically.
Yeah, I think another helpful thing to do maybe is to identify the red flags. Like these are the things that really gets this guy going or this girl going.
Yes.
And to try not to be a trigger, or to know that, okay, this guy is getting off the rails now, and I need to step away, and maybe give a very believable excuse to leave the house.
But okay, let me give you an example. So I know your trigger, and I know you're about to go off, okay? But then you know that I know your trigger. So what would you do?
I don't know.
If you know, I know, or I've been, if maybe as the abuser you've been noticing that when I do this, she does this, you'll either amp it, or you will find a more abusive way or a more threatening way to bring me down, so that I am not going out there, or not giving you the supply that you need.
Is it, so for me, I'm thinking strategic planning. Whenever you
Very important.
Whenever you start seeing signs
Very important.
of aggression, avoid being in places where there is weapons, like kitchens, or closed spaces like a bathroom.
I would have left a long time ago.
or be in a place where there's a phone maybe close by, or a window where you can jump out the door.
But they can snatch the phone, they can block the window.
I'm saying at that point, you're not waiting until the aggression is like...
No.
So you're kind of like, okay, things are getting out of control here. Let me situate myself in a way where I can exit very fast if I need to, or a place where they don't have access to something that can hurt me.
Yes, that's true. But now you see it has escalated to physical abuse. Yes,
Yeah.
try to be as safe as you can. You know, we're laughing here. It's not a joking matter. It's not a joking matter. If you feel that you're not safe, call 911. You know, or have a plan. Have a neighbor that if I call you and I say a certain word, know that I am in danger, come to the house. I am not comfortable. You can have code words, just the same way we have code word with kids, you know, when we're talking about stranger danger and all that stuff. Yeah, if as a victim, you're in a situation where you can't openly say, have a code word with somebody that you trust. And, you know, for example, like I call Pastor Dennis and we have already come up with a word, maybe let's say I say my son's name. So when you know I say whichever son I've told you, you know to either call the abuser's phone or do something, you know? Yeah.
I think that's a good, because most of the time, especially in a home where there are children, the children can be also taught those code words.
Yes.
Because it is easier for them to escape, quote unquote, to go get help.
Yes.
Either to go to a neighbor or to go get help outside. And so if they know what that code word is, when that code word is said, they can go and get help. How about when, like, you are in this home and the abuse is not only directed towards you, but even towards the children. So the children now, for the last time I did something, the children went out. And now we are in this place where nobody is safe. I think for me at that point is where you need to start saying, you know what, it's time to leave.
And I think for many people, that's the point where many people realize that this has gone too far. Because if the abuser is abusing you and they're not getting that satisfaction that they were looking for, they will always find a way of hurting you for you to respond. Then now they turn it at you and say, you're the reason why I abused you. So yes, that is very, very possible. And I think that's the point where many people realize that this has gone too far, I need to get out. But it's already deep into it. And that's why we're saying, you know, let's talk about this. You know, verbal abuse is something that is, maybe because of the culture we've grown, you know, tukorohongumu. We are those of, you know, brush it off, oh, they didn't mean this, or they were just joking, or I say something and I was just joking. But why would you joke about that? Yeah.
So, man, I feel so... I feel like we just opened this Pandora's box.
Yes, we did.
And we were like, in there is so much stuff.
Yes.
That you can't just talk about.
No, we can, because every situation is different.
Yeah.
It's you know, when you're sitting down and hearing a story here or experiencing something else here, it's just, oh, so this can be it. So it's just pay attention to anything that is a pattern. It's repeating itself over and over and over. Once you've established that there's a pattern of abuse, then it's time to look at what needs to be done. If it's time to go, it's time to go. If it's time
is it legal or advisable to have hidden cameras in the home? So that
I'm not sure about that. I think every state is different.
In case, because sometimes people don't believe you. Like, because most people that abuse their spouses or their partners are very outgoing, and out there they're very popular.
Yes.
And they have managed to be Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll kind of a person, where they're one person in the house and they're a different person outside. And so it's very difficult for people to believe them.
Right.
And so they come to a point where you almost have to prove, and if there's no physical injury or anything to show that someone is abusing you, you're gonna almost be dubbed a crybaby.
That's true, and that's why it's important to know that this conversation that we started, it's hard to talk about emotional abuse or any kind of abuse without talking about mental health. And when it comes to talking about mental health, we are not experts. We have experts out there that we need to reach out to so that, when we run into these issues, we have these experts that can advise us on what to do because it's happening. It's happening a lot everywhere.
Yeah. All right, so we have about 7 more minutes left. In the 7 minutes, I want to talk about the people so we talk about the person who is thinking of leaving.
Yes.
We're talking about the person who is not ready to leave. What about the person who has already left? How do they keep themselves safe from the person that they're running away from?
Okay, we can take many angles. It depends on the type of abuse you're going through. It depends on the resources that you have. It depends on the proximity of the person. Some people cannot leave, but now we're talking about the person who's left. First of all, you have to come to a point where you know that you are not the reason the person abused you.
Yeah.
You are not. It was not your fault. It was that person's behavior. And, of course, they will not take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But it was not your fault that it happened to you. There's a series that I'm following right now, and I forget that a lady has put out there. It's about owning my trauma. And it's a documentary. And it's really sad how, as victims, people go through all these things that they're going through, and at the same time blaming themselves. They've gone through the abuse. Now they're out of the abuse, but they're still blaming themselves that it happened.
Yeah.
And for one of the things that she says, it's continuing to happen. Whoever that abuser was is still abusing other people because she didn't speak up.
Yeah.
So we need to speak up for ourselves. We need to speak up for our children. We need to speak up for our community. This is something that's happening. If you see something that is out of the ordinary, feel free. Let me speak for myself. Go to somebody, come to me and say, hey, is everything okay? I may not express myself to you because I don't know you, but I may go to a close friend or somebody that I trust and say, you know what? Everything is not okay. Yeah, so once you are out there, just know that the abuse, you were not the cause of the abuse.
Yeah.
And it's time to take yourself back, because once you're in an abusive relationship, you have been controlled so much that you have become somebody else that you're not. And maybe you're somebody who liked to sing, maybe you're somebody who liked to whatever your hobby was, and the abuser would say, see, why are you doing this? This is not even helping you in any way. So you give up that thing to please the abuser.
So you're physically crushed.
Yes.
To the point that the crushing has reached your spirit.
Yes.
So now your spirit is also gone.
Everything gets crushed.
And so you just feel like a nothing.
Yes.
And that if I'm not with this person and I'm feeling this bad about myself, nobody else wants me. At least he wants me or she wants me.
You will continue to stay because at least that person. But is that what God says about you?
No.
Yeah.
And so, how about, so you've left. If you decide to leave, I feel there's a place where you need to leave. Don't just leave nusu-nusu. For example, if you're sharing a bank account, you need to just go close that account and open your own bank account.
If you can, close the account.
If you can.
If not,
If you
just, while you're still in the planning stage, start putting something aside for you that when you leave, you're able to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
If you have, like I said, if you have people you trust that you can say, hey, here's the situation, I want to get out, I don't know. They may even have ideas of how you can get out without that person knowing, because sometimes even distance, physical distance needs to be there. If the police have to be involved, what is it called? There's this
Restraining
thing,
order.
restraining order. Yeah, if it gets to that point to get a restraining order, go ahead, get a restraining order. It's about you. It's not about respect. It's not about shame. It's not. Always take care of you first. And I'm not saying it in a selfish way. I'm just letting you know that there are people out there that are out there to hurt you for no reason because they hurt people themselves. And like I said, that's why it's hard to speak about it without talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be another topic for a different day.
Yes.
But I'm thinking that if you decide to stay in the same place, maybe think of changing your routine. So if you're a Kroger person, become a Walmart person. If you shop like at 11 o'clock in the morning faithfully, maybe go later or earlier. If there's appointments that you go to.
So let me ask, and why would that? Why would you do that, or why would you advise that?
Because when you live with someone for a long time,
Yes.
they really know your routine.
Yes.
So if you're trying to stay away from them and you don't want them to get to know where you are and follow you, I think changing your routine might help a little bit.
That may.
If you stay in the same area.
But then also that kind of heightens their awareness. Okay, why is this person doing this? So they may start stalking you as well. Yeah, so it can go either way.
Yeah, so anyway, well, guys, it's been a wonderful time hanging out with Judy today and finishing and talking about this topic of emotional and verbal abuse and just abuse in general.
Yep.
And we want you to know that you are not alone. If you are going through these difficult times right now, and either you are thinking of leaving, or in a place where you cannot leave, or you're in a place where you've left and you still feel unsafe, I think there is help. And those of you who live in America, I'm assuming that there's a lot of help
Yes.
to be gotten.
Yes.
Is it expensive? Is it free? Is it affordable?
It depends on the community, I think. There are
Okay.
those that are free resources. There are also resources. I think it's 1-800-domestic-violence that you can call. You can go to the websites. And those are websites that are safe where, if, for example, you're trying to search something and the abuser comes, there's a way you can exit the
window.
The window
Yeah.
quickly, yes.
Okay.
You know, they have put steps because they understand. They are experts at this.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I hate to end it here, but is there any final remarks before we end?
Before we end, I want to say thank you to all those people who reached out and, said that they appreciate that we are talking about these conversations. Thank you for those people whose lives are turning around because of this. It's not easy, and we are not giving you any solutions, I know, but at least you can always reach out. Upendo is open for you. That's why you are a member of this church. Whether you're a member or not, you can reach out and we will try to see how to help you.
All right. Well, this has been another wonderful episode of the Shepherds broadcast, where we connect UBC flock with those who shepherd them. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we're going to be here next time, same time, different topic, and different people. But we're going to be here, and we are so glad that you have joined us today. So have a blessed evening, and God bless.
God bless you.